Welcome to part two of Salem's Lot, the 2004 TNT miniseries, starring a whole bunch of cast members I do actually recognize and love. I watched this last night with my girlfriend, and DVDs sometimes are very weird. They'll just start playing when you don't expect it to. We came in and it was playing through the credits at the beginning, and I paused it, and I thought that was enough. And unfortunately, she ended up missing the opening a little bit of to explain why is everyone in the hospital later on. And I was like, oh, that's right, there was an entire opening to the whole movie. But I digress. It was just a quick and easy explain. But yeah, don't skip over the beginning because it will explain why everyone's in the hospital in the beginning, especially if you've never read the book. But cast I actually enjoy: Rob Lowe, the late great Andrew Bauer, the late great Rutger Hauer, the late great Donald Sutherland. It's unfortunately the trend in this movie. James Cromwell is still with us, thank God. Samantha Mathis, who I got to meet at Rocket Shock about 2016, 2017, and she signed my DVD of that and talked a little bit about Salem's Lot, working with Rob Lowe. It's Super Mario Brothers is the biggest thing people kept bringing up to her, as well as a couple other of her great movies. But those were the big headliner cast of this movie. We'll get into a little bit about the comparison between the original and this one, and what's different, missing from the book, and the characters that are combined, and names changed for whatever reason the names were changed. I didn't quite understand that a couple times, but I digress. Made by a television director as well.
Yeah, Mikhail Solomon also did another adaptation of Stephen King's called Big Driver,
Hmm.
which I actually liked a lot. That was very good. But this Salem's Lot in 2004 starts out much differently than the first one. Somewhat, it's after what happens in Salem's Lot, but very different. I mean, Ben Mears is a Pulitzer Prize winning novelist, and yet he looks like he's homeless in this. In the 79 version, he definitely is disheveled and, covered in dirt, but he's kind of on the run. We find out in this, he's been searching for someone, and we find out why. And they're both in the hospital. And then Ben tells the story of Jerusalem's Lot. So for the 2004 version, we get a lot of exposition in the first few minutes. We hear stories about the town, how, evil. There is a little line I think I wrote. We find out that Larry Crockett, or Lawrence Crockett, who's not Larry in this one, Lawrence Crockett is a scumbag, unlike the first interpretation in 79. So that's a big difference. I mean, when Ben Mears goes to Salem's Lot, he is there and he has a deal that he's going to rent the Marston house. He's going to, do a book on the Marston house. He rolls into town. And Larry Crockett's like, oh yeah, no, I sold it. And it's like, well, I sublet my apartment in New York and we have paperwork. I've got it on my car seat. And Lawrence Crockett says, like, well, sue me. And I'm like, wow, that's that's interesting for real estate law in 2004. Like, wow, okay, so interesting.
He's got a better deal coming in Kenny Bunkport with the Barnabas Collins, the vampire.
Yeah. Um,
Nice obscure reference in that movie.
but it's a so we that's like Ben Mears, like as soon as he rolls into town, that's what he finds out. And you have the narration overhead of like with the exposition of it, it's like, don't romanticize the town. This town knows darkness. And that's a very good way to let the viewer know that it's like, this is going to be some town with some secrets. I definitely feel like this version of Salem's Lot Salem's Lot is much gossipier than
Huh.
the 79 version. There's also, and it's a small thing, but there's also a difference in the population, which I don't know why. Like looked at that, when you see the opening of the town, it says population 1,913, and that's 100 people less than in the first one, or 110, something like that. I don't know why they would do that, because it's not, necessarily significant, but I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, this version of Salem's Lot is the town is way gossipier. Ben meets Susan. She apparently had sought him out through emails and stuff like that, which is a big difference. She went to New York. She wanted to be an artist, couldn't afford it, came back to town. Her mom is definitely in both versions. Susan's mom definitely doesn't like Ben for some reason. This one, she's way more hostile about it and definitely lets other people know, and definitely lets other people know what's going on in his business too. So I feel like she's one of the main gossipers in this town. I think that Andre Brower as Matt Burke is like a breath of fresh air. I'm not saying that the actor who played Matt Burke in '79 was bad, but this one has more. I don't know. I think the dialogue between Matt and Ben Mears is just more of a. It's more realistic for someone who was a child and who is now an adult. He kind of pushes them in ways. I will say something that is very goes along with both of the adaptations. Whatever you're doing for an English teacher in Maine, damn, is your house going to be big? Because for both of these adaptations, I mean, this makes me want to go and become a teacher and live in Maine, because both of these houses are freaking nice. First one looked like it was a hotel because it's got multiple rooms. This one has multiple rooms. So well done, whatever you guys are doing for English teachers in Maine. The thing is with this one though, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, Chris, in the first one, it was all about the atmosphere and tension. And this one, I felt like doesn't have it. There's certain aspects, like even picking up Barlow's, big package, or what ends up being his casket and whatnot. That is a series that goes on. We get to see the characters. We get to see, this, the travel that they take to go and get it, and coming back to Salem's Lot, and how eerie that is. With this one, it just comes and goes and is no big deal, which I think is a big loss. The Glick brothers, for some reason, I felt like their voices were dubbed, and I didn't know what was going on. I don't know. It didn't seem real to me that both the Glick brothers with their voices, and also they were doing like naughty stuff in the first one. It was just they were going over to Mark Petrie's house, looking at some of the stuff that Mark had, and it was more innocent. Now they're kind of naughty kids, and also Mark is like poor and kind of a jerk. But I mean, he's had jerky stuff had done to him, so that goes along. I just felt like in this one, there's definitely like a lot of subplots that are like so many that really are like, what are we doing? The main one though, that I'm very confused about, even rewatching this, and I want to say I was a big fan of this when it came out in 2004. I thought it was great. I really liked it. I thought it sped along and all that stuff. Watching it now, rewatching it now after watching the original, I kind of have to change my viewpoint. I do like some of the aspects of it, but there's really no jump scares. There's really no tension or suspense. The way when we finally, find the vampires, it's not a thing like it was in the first one. I mean, the first one, as I said in our video before, those are core horror memories that I have as a child that so many other people have. And with this, I don't know if they wanted to be so different that they took those away. I mean, spoiler if you haven't seen that, when Danny Glick is in the hospital after stuff happened to his brother, and he's like in shock. Um, his brother, it's like he's in the hospital, but he's not at the window. He's at the like curtain that surrounds Danny's bed, and he's like, "Let me in, let me in." And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not that's not the rule of vampirism. He's already in the room. If that was the case, he would have been knocking on the door or the window. It's that curtain around the bed isn't letting him in anything. It's That's not like a barrier and all that stuff. And also then the next morning when you see Danny Glick on the ground, wow, way to go, hospital staff. Like his door was open and you guys didn't notice that there's a child on the ground. Cool. But the biggest, that's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is the relationship between Dr. James Cody and Sandy McDougal. Now,
Whoa.
this is what I am really confused about, because when they start talking, you think that they know each other from high school or they're peers or something, but then it becomes very evident that Sandy's only 19, and Dr. Cody is a full-fledged doctor. So,
He's Doogie Howser. He went to school. He went to medical school early.
well, I mean, did he go? Is he? Yeah, that's the thing. And
Yes,
it's like
they even talk about the fact that they went to the prom together.
well, and that it's like, if I had been a little bit smarter or a little bit drunker, I'm like, girl, you're 19. How much? I mean, either one of the things going on, but also the fact that they talk about this like, I remember watching you dance. I'm like, you had a baby. How much, I mean, so if you watched him having it, what, when you were 17, like this is not right on any levels. And that to me is just and it's a weird subplot in the film too, that it's like, I don't know where we're going with this. I do like Andre Brower's reaction though when Mike Ryerson comes in after he's been turned into a vampire. But there's also that homoerotic thing going on between them prior to that when he's at the house. I like that at least you get to see what happens to Matt Burke, because that was one of the complaints I had in the first film. Like, there's certain characters that just all of a sudden it's like, and they disappear. At least with that, with Matt Burke, and he's the main one who was talking about vampires. It's like everyone kind of thinks he's crazy because Ben's like, okay, and even Dr. Cody. And then when they go from like stop going from the people are dying of shock to people are dying from anemia, which it's like, all right. And they still don't kind of understand why Mike Ryerson died and stuff like that. It's just so mixed up and stuff. It's really jumbled. I think Rutger Hauer, love him to death, rest in peace. And I know that, in the book, Barlow does speak and stuff like that. I gotta say, I liked it better that him being this like supernatural, like Nosferatu type thing, better than him talking to them in the movie. I think it totally takes away from the scariness of it and stuff like that, because when you can talk to someone, you can reason with them. There's a possibility that or there's just a possibility. And with this, I don't know. I feel like that really took stuff away. It's sad that in every version, Mark Petrie's parents or parent, there's no way they're gonna live past the kitchen.
Oh,
And I mean, that was
horrifying.
that was really something. James Cromwell as Father Callahan, again, nice addition, gave him a little bit more meat in the bones with the religion aspect and all that stuff, but definitely went away quickly when you realize that maybe his faith is very, very flawed. But there's some aspects in the film that I have to go along with that. With James Cromwell and Father Callahan, we first see him as an audience at this homeless shelter where unhomed people. They are doing a Thanksgiving dinner for everyone. So we know it's November. Now, when we get to Jerusalem's Lot, we also know that it is November because someone says it's like, oh, that's why you're opening up the shop. And they say that the Straker, that's why you're opening up the shop in November. But there is a portion of the film where Ben Mears says, like, no one would know that Jerusalem's Lot was dead on February 6th. And I'm like, so that's 3 months later, but why are we? I again don't know where we are with the time frame. I mean, is it that important? Probably not. But as far as continuity, I'm not really understanding because if it's supposed to be, he's telling the story to the orderly while he's in the hospital, and this is Ben Mears after he throws Father Callahan out the window with himself. Is that when he's supposed to be telling this story, that it's supposed to be February 6th? Okay, if that's the case, then why would they be doing a Thanksgiving dinner thing? I don't know. It's kind of a thing that bothered me. Samantha Mathis, I think, is a great actress. I don't necessarily like the writing that they had for her as Susan Norton. I don't know. I just don't feel like this was necessarily scary. I do like the fact that Lawrence Crockett, or Larry Crockett, is the primary reason why certain aspects of Barlow and Straker came into town. They had to be invited. They bought the house, and then Straker bought it from them. That is very much with vampire lore. This film definitely had a lot to do, though, with Ben Mears finding Hugh Larson and his wife. They kept doing flashbacks and stuff like that because that's the primary reason why Ben came back, because that's like he was frightened to death. His Aunt Cynthia found him and then moved him away. So that just came up a lot. And it was nice that Susan then relieved his memory, that the fact that one of the things is that not only did he see Hubie commit suicide and found his wife's chest blown up, but he thought that he heard a child dying and could have done something, but he was petrified with fear. And Susan made him aware that no, he was already dead, and that was just a child's imagination. I feel like everything with the Glick brothers, though, that was such a core thing in the 79 version, like the scraping of the window and stuff like that, with the mom, with the brothers themselves, with Mark Petrie, was very much, I think they tried to make this a new version of it. And I don't think, if you're going to do that, I understand. If you're going to do that and make it better, this, I don't think, made it better. I don't understand why they kept having Ralphie Glick call his mom on the phone and then, open the door and we didn't see anything. And then Mr. Glick wake up and have Ralphie like sucking on his mom's wrist. And then when they find her, she's dead. She's in the morgue. And for some reason, when she wakes up, and this seems like to be the makeup department did this with multiple women characters, they crimped the hair and then put a lot of pastel eyeshadows that were very shimmery on the women, and that signified you're now a vampire. Again, no, I don't think that made it better at all. I don't know. I have a lot of issues. I do think that what they did with the Marston house inside, either way, I mean, that's real estate. That's a real estate agent's nightmare. I mean, it just looks like they just in both cases, I mean, did you guys just let a bunch of pigeons just go in there and like go shit crazy? Like, did you just feed them like whatever it is, X-Lax or whatever it is to make them crap all over the house? Because neither one of those adaptations of the house are at all livable. No. So I love how they're like, oh, we're going to sell the house. Oh, we're going to rent it. Whatever you do, no one would be able to inhabit that place. Like, it is absolutely disgusting. And with that, they definitely made sure to completely replicate those in chef's kiss ways because well done, they're gross. I think James Mason probably was a better striker for me. Sutherland, I think, was a little too, I don't know. I think he was just, I don't know, he was almost too sure of himself and like, and almost in a sassy way when he's like, oh, what? And it's like, it was very much, I don't know, it to me, it very much seemed like acting. Um,
Well, he in the original is very nervous all the time, and the way he acts in this movie is exactly the way he's supposed to be in the book. He's very schwarmy and like always just
oh, like twisting his mustache and stuff.
yeah,
So
he's
yeah,
supposed to
that's
be
the
that
thing.
charming, especially when he's like paying out the women to their like their who keep bringing the old ladies who keep bringing over their stuff that they need money for.
Yeah, I haven't read the book in forever, so it's like details are kind of like um uh out of my
Barlow
brain.
has
But for me, of the two, I do like the way I think his name is Mark Bird because he's been in so many things. Dan Bird, who plays Mark Petrie. I think he's great. I've seen him in a number of things throughout the years, including Coopertown. He played Courtney Cox's son. He's got a great resume, and I feel like he just keeps getting better. I love seeing him in this. This is one of the first I remember recognizing him, but this is one of the first um, uh, roles that he played that I knew him from. I do like again like the fact that I mean the poor doctor in either adaptation gets a horrible death. Sorry about that. It was interesting though that the whoever had the boarding house, the actress who played Eva in this one, her accent tended to go in and out when she's having a big monologue about the Marston house. I noticed that there's not a bit of French that you can hear in that accent, like it completely goes away and then it comes back. And that I thought was very interesting. But I do like the fact that there's more aspects of the Marston house in this, with Hubie like writing letters to invite people to come and stuff like that. And I mean, like I said in the first one, it really is, a haunted house story that then ends up being about vampires.
mm, the I can just really a couple quick things. The monster movie collector of Mark is heavily toned down in this to the point that it's like the one quick jump with the coffin that's supposed to contain the dead child is a Cenobite from the Clive Barker Tortured Souls toy collection, but otherwise we don't get the big like what do you call it, the big emphasis like, hey, shouldn't you be putting that stuff away and focusing on girls and school and sports and things like that, because there's no father figure for Mark in this movie. The way Barlow shows up is a little less intimidating than the black mask turning into the blue smurf that he does, whereas Rucker Hauer is just kind of a chatty catty, even though obviously they only seem to have Rucker for a limited amount of time on set because he's in one scene in the part one, and then he's in two scenes in part two, and then that is it. How people die in this movie, I thought was definitely more violent sometimes. In fact, like real estate guy who's got good Kennybunk property gets his comeuppance for his daddy evil touch daughter stuff, which was really
Yeah.
her, her handicapped boyfriend, who's now all, fixed up and perfect because of what Barlow does to him, helps get the revenge. But I do like the fact that she's like, we don't want to take, I don't want your blood, just like gross. I know what you do. Um, one of the other biggest things that I noticed in the original, and sure enough, IMDb confirmed it because I was watching this when it first aired, was, and I live right below Maine, is that there's snow everywhere, but you hear ant crickets and bugs constantly, and Maine people were like, the bugs in Maine die off and hibernate into cocoons. You don't hear a single bug when there's snow on the ground, because that is their frost. That was kind of funny. That just shows that they were obviously shooting on a set. and nobody from this production was actually from Maine. Andrew Bauer would then return to Stephen King in The Mist, which I think was pretty funny. So he's got
Andre Brower doing
Brower.
that.
Yeah, if only he had the Brooklyn Nine-Nine with him, they would have cleaned up this problem in no time for him. But I digress. Long live, rest in peace, Andre, because you're fantastic in everything you do. But same thing with Rutger Hauer and Donald Sutherland, excuse me. You know, it's just funny that he plays a vampire after his son played the vampire in The Lost Boys.
Well, and that Sutherland and Rutger Hauer are both in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right. Oh yes, and he plays. That's completely right. Which is, man, you compare his Buffy the Vampire Slayer appearance as Buffy's Watcher to his vampire Renfield. He's not quite a vampire. He's like a Renfield, or he's a half vampire, depending on which lore you go with. He obviously becomes like James Cromwell's character. They're both very different characters, but also just the looks too, because Donald had a full head of, like, you know, dark brown hair at that point with a little bit of gray setting in, and then 10 years later he's just completely whited out. So either that was just a lot of makeup, or he was actually that whited out. But considering that he would do the Hunger Games just a couple of years later, that was probably his natural completely whited out hair. But you can just definitely see the difference in terms of the two different kinds of characters. We will review the Salem's Lot Max film coming up soon. If you're in the UK, apparently it's going to be all over the theaters in the UK. That's what everyone in the UK is saying. But here in the States, it's going right to Max on the same day the Joker 2 comes out. That would have been an interesting box office battle between the two of them if they had done that. Both are Warner Brothers movies. But I kind of suspect that's why it's going straight to Max, is because they didn't want to put it out next to the Joker, and they've had it sitting on the shelf for so long. That film was made here in Massachusetts, and a lot of people from Massachusetts have been waiting to see their movie. I also thought it was going to be directed by James Wan, but it's not. He's just producer on it. This film, I think, is also available on Max. I know the DVD has been out there for a while. Sad thing is, for both of these films, for Salem's Lot being this big adaptation, it's one of the few Stephen King adaptations that has almost zero bonus features. Other than a commentary by Tobe Hooper, this one has zero bonus features. I've looked at international releases as well, no bonus features. Maybe the Max version will get bonus features. Maybe one day Criterion Collections, Scream Factory, or one of those guys who have been picking up Stephen King films left and right, Keynote Loader Studios, will put out a special edition DVD of this as we have lost some actors, but there's still a lot of actors in this they can interview, as well as executive producers, writers, and so on and so forth. Like Rob Lowe. That would be great to hear Rob Lowe talk about this movie. If you want to hear my interview with Samantha Mathis about this movie, come over to the Radio Horror YouTube channel where this is being put up, and listen to my interview with her. It's somewhere down in the bottom of the Radio Horror channel, so you're going to have to look for it, or I'll try and find it and put a link in the description box below. Yep, they have the same exact DVD. I got my Blockbuster.
This is only available on Amazon to rent or buy. It's nowhere else.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I don't know if the DVD is out of print, but like I said, that Tobe Hooper Blu-ray is still available because it's print on demand through Warner Brothers Archives, as is the fantastic Return to Salem's Lot. You can get that on print on demand as well if you really want to. And of course, the book is heavily being reprinted in stores right now. So it's got the new movie poster on it with our 4 intrepid vampire hunters standing on a hill overlooking the Marsden house. So, and then of course, I believe the TV series, which is a prequel to this, set back during Pilgrim times with Adrian Brody, is still streaming as well somewhere. So that's kind of a connection, just based on like the evil growing in a town kind of story, kind of like what they're doing with the Welcome to Derry show. So I've only seen an episode of it. I can't comment on it too much because I haven't finished it. But like I said, we're going to do the new film very soon. So like, subscribe, comment on this video, and we'll be back for the Salem's Lot 2024 film coming up.